welcome to the house. The one they talking about, word of mouth. The boxing PlayHouse, without a doubt. All the latest and greatest boxing news, that's what it's all about.
Welcome, guys. This is Sakura A and Emilio Santana. And of course, this is Boxing PlayHouse's After Dark series. But wait a minute, it's also a ladies' night edition. And tonight we got Trisha Morrison with us. That's right, the Deuce wife. And she's come to talk to us about all things Tommy. And, you know, it's just amazing. I talked to her a little bit before the show, and she just, you know, I mean, I want somebody to be in love with me even after I'm gone. Can you do it?
Yeah, definitely can.
Okay, because that's what kind of love she has for her man. So, I mean, I think I could love you after you're gone too. So, we good then. We good on both aspects. So, you got to tell me exactly what you think of this one time. Keith Thurman is back in action this weekend. It's going to be on Fox pay-per-view against Mario Barrios. And, I mean, I'm just wondering exactly what you predict is going to happen in this fight. Because me personally, I just feel like, I believe like this could be a very, very, very action-packed fight, very competitive, more so than people think. What about you?
Oh, well, it's about time that one time get back in the ring. I think this will probably be a competitive fight, you know, knowing that Keith, you know, he's been out the ring like 2.5 years. You know, it's going to be some ring rust there. You know, Barrios, he's a big guy coming up from 140. You know, his last fight, he lost a close fight to Tank. So I think it's a good comeback fight, you know, to test the waters to see where he's at in the welterweight division. So I think it could be an interesting fight. You know, I think Keith, if I was a betting man, I would say Keith, you know, he should win, maybe by decision or even a late round stoppage. So it's a good test. So we'll see how one time, you know, how he's looking these days. Or will he be like Samson, or will he need that long hair like he had to be effective? We shall see.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, you know, I was not going to get into the hair because, you know, me, I'm the type of person that I'm very upfront and I say what I feel. I'm not about to talk about anybody behind their back. And when Keith first did his haircut, I did not understand it. I'm like, why? Why did you get rid of the ponytail? I love the ponytail. Like, I can't help it. I told him I love the ponytail. So, you know, it's just a simple fact that I understand more now, based on what he was saying. It's like, you know, he's trying to get a fresh start and wants to finish out his career strong. And once he lost, he's like, that ponytail didn't mean the same to him. So, I mean, I can kind of get it. I understand it a little bit. You know, it's just the fact that I just really love the way that ponytail looked on him. And I still do kind of miss it. Now, the only other thing I have to say about Keith one-time Thurman. Look at him. I mean, he's in better shape now than he was from Pacquiao to me. To me, he looks like he's much more leaner, much more, you know, just very, 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 you know, how can I say it? Just mentally focused for sure.
Add a little meditation into it.
Yes, and this is like a weight loss that we gradually saw. Like, he wasn't like, you know, trying to come down from a big weight loss either. Like, you know, he looks slim for Christmas time. So in January, he looked well. Now, like, you know, like, so this is a more polished, that's the word I'm looking for, a more polished looking Keith Thurman to me. The only problem is that he is beating up with Barrios. And Barrios is nothing, you know, he's nobody to be, you know, moved up with. Like, you know, Gervonta Tank Davis took him for granted or didn't take him as seriously as I feel that he could have. And now we're seeing that Marius gave Javante Tank Davis, a hell of a fight. And he was much more effective at boxing than people had given him credit for. Now, in Marius's defense, he's out of his weight class, he's moved up, but he says he's way more comfortable at this rate. And he was a very large 140-pounder, I must say. So do you think that he's going to give Keith any more problems? Or is this what some people really call a tuna that they want us to pay a pay-per-view for?
I think Barrett's going to give people a good fight. I think he's going to after the long layoff. Both of these guys are about to loss. So Barrett will, probably train himself to get down for the tank fight. So I think Barrios, I think it's going to be interesting to see how where he's at. He's a little older, a couple years older at 33.
Right.
Barrios is the younger man. So I think it's good, it's a good tune-up or comeback fight to see where he at. We've got the big guns out here, Spencer Lucas. I think they're going to unify them belts. I'm not sure who Crawford might fight later this year, but
right.
They've got some young guns. A lot of young guns is coming up, so it's the time. The time is now for Keith if he's going to try to, be a major force in the welterweight division. Clock is ticking, so he's definitely going to have to make a spark this year if he wants to, be at the top again. Like I said, a lot of new talent coming up, and not getting no younger. So can't afford another long layoff or setback. So hopefully he can get in the mix and get back to where he wants to, playing the throne as welterweight champion.
Well, I feel Keith is ready. He looks good shape. He looks in mental, great mental type of stability in his life with his family in place. And also, I think he's motivated in a different way. Seeing his good friend John Porter retire kind of suddenly, without warning, I think that kind of put things in place for him to really realize, damn, we are on that side of our career soon. So, it's time for me to, make it happen and make the points, stack it up for the next generation with this cute baby. You know what I'm saying?
That's another thing. A lot of people feel like he's kind of lost some killer instinct, that the fighter needs to be at the top. Being married now and having a kid, I'm going to see the same versus Keith Thurman that we've seen in prior years. So
I'm so sick of that excuse. I am so sick of that excuse. It's like, okay, so me as a woman, I have a problem with that. That's like saying a woman that has a baby can't also go to work, go to school, cook dinner, clean house, babysit, shop. We do all those things besides just that one targeted thing that we're known for. It's no different with boxers. They can prioritize and they can categorize and compartmentalize.
Sometimes having a little girl something got up. Can't do something.
Well, you tell me, does it sound? You got Pooh Bear, so did it soften you up?
I'm seeing it soften. Some guys might affect them. Not all guys, but some guys affect them. They're making that big money the biggest purse for Pacquiao.
Yeah.
A lot of guys ain't as hungry as they were, so this is a good time to see if you're still hungry or if you still got that killer instinct.
Right, and I understand what you're saying. Hey Keith, we still support you, man. We here in St. Pete. We do support our hometown people. We ain't like other people, that run around and do everything except help people that's in their community and support them. So we're gonna always be riding with one time when it comes to these matchups. Now,
These are the questions that people are asking.
I understand what you're saying, but that's why I'm making it clear that we still rocking in there. And I like Barrios now. Don't get me wrong. Now he earned my respect with his fight with Javante Tank Davis. So, but I still got Sarai with one time. He only got one damn loss as we see. So it's like, I'm going with him. Now the only other thing I also like about Keith is that he does have Dan Birmingham, one of my favorite trainers in the world. to hang out with, and he is always in Keith's corner. He's always helping them train. He's there night or day, whenever Keith needs him in the gym. I love Birmingham. Now, the problem for me is like I know that Getty was, Keith Thurman's trainer and believed in him when no one else has. But this man, Birmingham, he's been there ride or die ever since he stepped in, and I need him to get his props. I mean,
definitely a Hall of Famer. Great trainer, trained Wicked right, definitely. So Dan Birmingham, definitely put St. Pete Boxing Club on the map. Great guy, legendary trainer.
absolutely. Let's give him his props and his roses while he's alive too. And I love me some Birmingham because he's a loyal coach. And let me tell you something about these coaches. After being friends with a bunch of different coaches, I'm coming to learn that it's not too many people that are wanting to pay these coaches for training them and giving up their time away from their families in the gym all the time, trying to make sure the lights stay on at the gym when they don't want to pay. And I'm sick of it. You guys need to step up to the plate. You want to be in these gyms, you want to work out, you want to have the clout of saying, yeah, I'm training, I'm getting ready for this fight or that fight. Pay your damn, supporting cast. You need to make sure you give your trainer, I don't care if you only make $500, give them at least 60. Damn. I mean, it is so bad, it's embarrassing at this point. The way that some of these trainers are getting treated. Now, with that being said, I have to give Pete his props on that because he does help take care of Birmingham very well. He is not one of those people that are not taking care of his circle, that's there for him and Lowell. So I feel like some of these boxers, yeah, you're not making that kind of money that Keith Thurman is, but you're making something, and you're definitely taking up somebody else's time when you have them in the gym night and day away from their families, trying to help you be great. So it don't even take, like people say 10%, but I'm sure if you don't have the 10%, I'm sure a trainer would just be happy with the thought that you gave them something. You know what I'm saying? Anything. And it's just sad. I'm tired of hearing about these stories. Now, let me just take a break here. I want to say shout out to Linda Platt. What's up, Linda? We love you. Yes. Then we have the beautiful Dahlia Duran. She's translating for us tonight. And so we're absolutely honored and thankful for her presence in our life and with our podcast. If you have a question in Spanish, you need to know. You got to know what we're saying. Make sure you check out Dahlia. She'll help you figure out what's going on in our conversation. And then we got, let's see, OC. He's like clap, clap trophies. And I think he was saying that to what I was saying about how some of these coaches and trainers are being, used and abused by some of these boxers. Like, cut it out. It takes money to run these lights. It takes money for gas for them to come back and forth to this gym 1,000 times a day, meeting with different boxers at different times. And when they get home, you never know if they lady or they man, whichever. If they mad because they like, damn, you said you was going to be home at 9. They got to come home and hear an argument. And then it's like, well, did you at least get the money? No, they don't have any money. So come on, just cut it out. I can't. Do you have any parting words for that?
Said it all. Said it all.
Like, literally. It's just downright embarrassing. Okay. Oh, she says she loves us. Enjoying the show. And OC says, Oscar. He's going to give me an Oscar. Oh. Well, I appreciate that, because it's hard times out here. So, we got Santa Cruz on the card. I was just getting to that. I mean, Santa Cruz has been relaxing and enjoying his feet very well. I mean, the guy's just so nice. It's just hard to not root for him. That's true. They are both on the card and they both coming off the mouth. Actually, somebody pointed out to me that everybody on the card is coming off a loss. So, I mean, it's like do or die for these people. So they're gonna make it happen. Is what I feel is the case. Now with Santa Cruz, I think he's gonna have any problems with his opponent, even though I'm not too familiar with his opponent.
Yeah, that's another thing I was about to say. I'm not too familiar. This opponent, I'm sure, is get the win. I'm sure they're not putting him in there with a killer. So,
Right.
So it should be a good comeback fight for Santa Cruz. Okay.
I mean, I saw a picture of Santa Cruz, and Santa Cruz was so funny. Oh my God. Santa Cruz was like, he's like shaking hands with his opponent. Like he is just too nice. But then when he gets in the ring, it's like all that shit is out the window and he's ready to thump, you know. He's gonna give you some stuff.
He was still nice when he got knocked out. I mean, the smile on his face.
Oh my God. I knew you was gonna bring that up. Like it was funny though. Like I was like, is Leo got a huge smile on his face? This is crazy right here. We got Pooh Bear in the house. Pooh Bear. Shout out to Pooh Bear. We was just talking about our Pooh Bear, our brand ambassador for Boston PlayHouse. And she is what made you soft. Your daddy did not want to say that you was making him soft when he first laid eyes on you as a baby. No, it's true. He did.
It probably would have affected me if I was a fighter. I didn't have to get out of the box. So, but it probably could have affected me.
Yeah, talk to me. Talk to me about it. What
But then again, it could have made me fight even harder. You know, like Marvin Hagler used that as a tool to keep food on his table. He said, "You're not taking no food from my kids or my family." So he used that in another way. Marvin Hagler.
okay.
So it depends. It affects fighters differently. Some fighters make them hungrier. Some fighters are soften them up.
Yeah, for real.
It can go both ways.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, the thing, it can go both ways, but I'm just tired of people using that as an excuse. Just because a man settles down and gets him a lady and has him a nice little family, don't mean that they can't cold stone be a killer in that ring. I mean, everybody got to switch. And on top of that, you be hungry. You know, you hangry because you done had to lose all this weight to make weight for the training.
Right.
Hey, Trish, we see Trish. She's in the house with us tonight. Thankfully, we're going to have her up in just a few minutes. Now, the thing of it is that
Daryl, say what's up?
Daryl, what's up? Tomlin, he also has a fight this weekend with his son, Ty Short Fuse Tomlin, and that's going down in Nashville. Yes. So I'm
shout out to Tomlin family.
hoping and praying that Pete can make it. Like Pete, he's supposed to be there. And you know, all these snowstorms and stuff is affecting the flights. So I'm praying that Pete Fernandez makes it there so he can root for us and be there to represent the Florida people that love Ty.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yes. And he also showed me a billboard where they have, like, they're gonna have our picture on with Ty.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, with a podcast. Like they got a photo that they're gonna have up at the actual fight. So shout out to them for looking out and always thinking of ways that they can also help Box and PlayHouse shine.
Definitely appreciate that.
So real. I told you these are real people.
Definitely real.
Definitely. Okay, and we got, I know who this is now. He said we had lunch at the Mexican restaurant. See you guys soon.
Oh, that's Oscar.
Yes, that's
What's up,
Oscar. Oh, you little tricky devil got that OC Mountie.
Mountie, okay.
I
recognize the eyeball.
Yeah, we need that eyeball. But yeah, I can't wait to eat back at that Mexican restaurant down in Fort Myers. So let's go ahead and let's see what else was on our agenda. Oh, Clarissa Shields is fighting. That's right. Clarissa Shields is fighting over in the UK also. So that's pretty huge. Where's my picture of Clarissa? She is still with Salito Promotions. Clarissa is one to look out for. She is one of the best. Okay. I don't want to say she's the GOAT, but I do believe she's the GOAT. But be good and nice to the other female boxers like Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, you know, because they have their own status and their right, and they've been fighting a lot longer than Clarissa is. But there is something just special about Clarissa because I just like her, you know. She's mean in that ring. Like, she got like that killer instinct that I like in boxers in general.
She spent some time at the Mayweather gym getting a few tips from Floyd Mayweather.
Yes, I saw that. And I mean, she was really appreciative of that too. Like, I don't see her like, you know, saying thank you a whole lot, but I really felt like in my heart that she was really appreciative of the time that Money May spent with her. And I hope he was dropping some of them jewels to her because she's going to need every bit of it when she gets done with this fight and she faces Savannah Marshall, because that's the lead up fight that everybody is wanting to talk about. And they both need to get through their fights. Now, Savannah Marshall has chimed back in with the Tweety Bird. And yes, and she's like, hey, your opponent turned me down for a fight 3 times. But I'm like, that don't really mean anything, but the fact that she's gonna get way more exposure and way more money to fight Clarissa, right. Like, you know, it could be, you know, little reward for Savannah for fighting Savannah. You know, you don't get the money and you're taking a big risk if you lose and you haven't had this payday yet with, you know, Clarissa. So I can't blame that lady for that. I mean, nobody should be faulting her for that at all. Now, I mean, is that Savannah Marshall fight? Is that something that's high on your list? I mean,
I want to see all these ladies fight, man. It's Serrano Taylor fight. I'm excited about that. These women, you know, we've always supported the women boxing. So to see these girls come together, unifying the belts is a good thing, you know. All excited about it.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to see Clarissa, you know, in a good tough fight, you know. I want to see that. So
I do too, but I wanted to see her in a rematch with Hannah.
That's another fight,
because I thought that was the best fight that she had.
Yeah,
yes.
Hannah Gabriel, that was a good fight. Yeah.
And after Hannah fought her, do you know they stripped her of her title for some other? Like, they wanted to give somebody else a chance to fight for the belt. Wow. And so, you know, she's been out of ranking ever since, and that's just not fair because she was like the toughest person that she fought.
She knocked Clarissa down.
Yeah, she's the only person that's ever knocked her down. Like, the hammer didn't even knock her down. So
yeah, I like to see her Gabriel's come back.
Yeah, I want to see her get her standing back. Like that, she deserves some of these big fights too, because she gave us the most action-packed fight out of all these ladies that Clarissa has, you know, had her way with in the ring. She didn't have her way in the ring with Hannah. Right. So, you know, I'm rooting for Hannah because that they be treating some people real dirty now in the boxing game. And you know what, Trisha, she's gonna have us some information on that type of thing too. Like how they can treat you when they use Gabriel, right, Hannah, for what they wanted to with the Clarissa Shields fight. And then afterwards, for a reward for taking a tough fight like that, you're going to take a title? Like, you take a ranking?
Politics.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Hey, I'm on a roll tonight. I mean, I don't know what's in this green tea, but it's got me saying a couple of things. I done told the boxers off about not paying their coaches. Now I done honed in on the fact that, you know, some of these sanctioning bodies and the politics of boxing are getting in the way of some of the bigger fights that we could have, or even a rematch with Clarissa Shields. And I mean, there's no telling what's next. I might just need to let you talk a bit, like, because I can calm down on that one. Because I'm still upset about Okendo, Fred. And how the WBA has done him for the last 5-6 years. Yes. But anyway, I'm gonna try to calm down, guys, because you know I can get heated a little bit over my boxing.
We have to lose with Bobo Andrade dropping. He dropped his belt to move up to 168. Trying to get in the level sweepstakes.
Well, you know what? I'm looking forward to seeing him fight someone that is up to his caliber. I want to see him in a competitive fight. And I want people to stop talking about he's nothing and he's this and he can't do that. Well, then get in the ring and fight him then. If he ain't none of these things, then you definitely know you need to fight him. And by moving up to 168, basically it's saying, hey, I'm not just going to stand here and hold this belt any longer, knowing that none of you guys at 160 are interested in fighting me.
What happened to the Danny Jacobs and Chris Eubanks to get this guy,
You know, I saw something a little like a week ago that Danny Jacobs was coming back for a fight, but you know, he's been out of the ring so long.
I think it's time to put him on the milk box.
Uh-oh, you gonna bring out that milk box? He missing?
Yeah, he's been missing a long time. So
Ooh, oh boy.
he qualifies for the milk box.
Uh-oh. Okay, Linda has some news. Linda wants to talk about the WBA and the WBC. She says we need the WBA and the WBC and unify weights in each weight division. Oh, you mean like if they work together and make sure that at least those two titles are put together and unify those at least. Then you only got two more belts out there, which is the IBF and the WBO.
That's how it was for years. It was just the WBA and the WBC. When they would unify here and there, like Hearns and Leonard, they unified them two belts before the before the IBF came and the other belts followed. They used to just beat them two belts right there.
Right.
More easier to unify. But now you got so many belts going on now.
Well, that's basically what Boo Boo said. He's like, I don't even need this belt at this point. I'm finna drop this belt and move up to 160. Try to get me a Canelo fight or a Benavidez or any of these guys at 168. Super middleweight, hey, you have been notified. Right. He is ready for some action, and you're not going to be able to hide behind the fact that, oh, well, isn't he at 160? Nah, bruh, he is right there at 168 with you right now. So I'm ready to see these matchups. Let's make it happen. And also, I'm hearing that the Charlo and Canelo talks are still ongoing, and Canelo has a couple of different options, of course, but the thing for me is at least there's talks, you know what I'm saying? At least something's going on behind the scenes to try to make this fight happen. So I'm excited about just them actually trying to get us some fights with some different, some good prize fighting matchups. Well,
CJ, what's up?
CJ is in the house. What's up? Wink.
Hook up.
Winky, what is going on, man? We ain't seen you in a while. Wow, what's up, fam? We love you. We adore you. Now, I'm ready for Trish. Because Trish has got some great news for us. She's going to inform us, honey. And this is one intelligent woman right here. And she stands by her man. And what I love about her the most is that she's not letting anybody just bully her around because they want to spread lies. So
you got to stand tall in this game here.
You're damn right. So now, without further ado, I want to welcome the beautiful, she's very pretty. I saw her earlier. The beautiful and the intellectually gifted Tommy Morrison's boo and wife extraordinaire, Trisha Morrison. Come on in, honey.
Hi, that was probably one of the best introductions I've ever had. Thank you.
Well, honey, I don't tell lies, so every bit of it was true. How you been?
Been good, thank you. Still working hard at trying to clear Tommy's name out there, and just doing it every single day. So doing good.
You are doing it, honey. Don't let anybody tell you you're not, because the tide is changing, and people, boxing fans specifically, their eyes are opening to a lot of the underground and the seediness that boxing can have. Even though we all love the sport and the actual in the ring competition that these men and women put on for us, we know that there's a lot of shady stuff, in the underbelly of it. So you're helping to expose that side of it to possibly and hopefully make it better for future generations of boxers.
Yeah, I think, Sakura, I didn't know anything about boxing until I started to look into everything. And I think that if you give me a moment to go through the timeline of what I've discovered, I think people are going to be pretty shocked.
Absolutely. I mean, but before we get into that, we have got to glorify your husband. Oh my God, 48 wins. 45 of those, no, 42 of those by KO. I mean, that's an amazing stat. And then you only got 3 losses. And I mean, if they wanted to win against Tommy, they really had to knock him out because he was not just going down. Like it was no in between with him, was it?
No, that's right. Yeah, he wrote, in fact, his own memoirs about his boxing career, and actually he lists it down as 51, 3-1, and 44 knockouts. So, and he lists every single fight in here, even the losses. Everybody's always saying, "Oh, well, he wasn't very good." He lost to Lennox Lewis, he lost to Ray Mercer, right? He lost to Michael Bent, but he explains how he lost.
Right.
And he also explains what he learned from the losses, which really has helped other boxers as well. So he was a very humble guy, and writing his boxing career in here, I think you'll find that you'll actually get to know him and how he felt in the ring as well.
Okay, so now where can we find this at? Like, if we wanted to get one of these, is it on Amazon, or do you have a website for it?
Yeah, it's not on Amazon. He didn't want it on Amazon or anywhere like that. It's just purely off his website, which I've kept running, which is TommyTheDukeMorrison.com. And you can just order it from there. I still have supplies of his memoirs that he wrote. Yeah.
Well, I'm interested in it because you mentioned some other fights that the box recs is not actually counting. So
right.
I have to find out exactly how that happened, that he has these additional fights that these recording agencies didn't want to basically, record.
Right, that's right. Yeah. You'll need to speak to some of the boxers direct, but I'll be happy to send you one of those books so that you can read up on the fights that BoxRec have dropped or left off.
All right, no problem. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Trisha, I noticed that Tommy's in the new boxing game that's coming out, Esports Boxing Club. I was glad to see him.
Yeah, that's really cool. They contacted me, and it was actually over a year ago. And I said, absolutely, let's have Tommy in there. And so they sent me the contract, and I signed it. And I've still yet to see. I think they're still trying to get a lot more boxes in that game. But it's going to be awesome, and don't quite know yet which version of Tommy it'll be. Whether he's got. If you look at all his fights, he looks different in every single one. So, but yeah, it's going to be great. Yeah, he'll probably actually get to a fight, maybe Tyson. I don't know. So we'll see.
When is it coming out, Tish?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm in contact with them. I think they're working really hard. It takes a lot to put those games together. I know when they were working on what's it called? The Fight Night round 4 and 5. Yeah. And he flew to LA to do that, and it takes a while to put it together. So, with technology today, I think it's going to be amazing when and if it does come out.
Oh, it's coming out. I'm so excited. He's been following it since they announced that they were going to have, the different belts included and the different fighters that's, past, present, big. So
yeah, and real cornermen and refs and everything. It's going to be exciting. Yeah, and crowds. Yeah.
Now, CJ, he says, now he may have lost, but it was two Olympian gold medalists, and that's not shabby at all.
Right. That's
Lewis.
Yes.
Yeah, two gold medalist.
Yes, like that's like okay, that's top of the line there, like that he was competing with. Now,
Yeah.
let's see. Oh, I know what I wanted to bring up. I'm looking at a very handsome Marson on this picture, honey. I want to know how he found you or how you found him. Like, how did you guys really like meet?
Um, well, he met me. I didn't go, to meet him. He turned up at my hotel back in 2009, and it basically went from there. But if you go back to 1996, I was actually in Las Vegas at the time that Tommy was kicked out. I didn't personally know him or meet him, but I was bringing tourism into Las Vegas, booking hotels and dealing with passengers from the UK. And I would always find it really difficult finding rooms in Vegas when there was a certain Morrison fighting, right?
Wow.
So yeah, so when he got kicked out of boxing in 1996, I always blamed this Tommy Morrison guy for having ruined tourism that particular week for me. And then in 2009, in a different city, he shows up on my doorstep at the hotel. And like I've mentioned in many interviews, I didn't know whether to give him the best room in the hotel or the worst, right? But I did sit him down and tell him exactly what I thought of him, and what he'd done for to ruin tourism for me. And he laughed, and I noticed a sadness in him. And I always used to Google people before they arrived at my hotel, like Steve Forbes and George Foreman, just so I would get to know who they were before they arrived at the hotel. And I noticed that everything that they had mentioned about Tommy was just very negative. The way he acted, drunk, drugs, women, the whole thing, right? And so when we met, I could tell he was interested in me, right? And I looked at him, and I basically said, I am not the right person for you. I'm not a drinker. I don't do drugs. I only have my ears pierced. That's all, right? And I'm just not the right person for you because I've read so much about you. And that's when I could tell that he was really upset with everything that was out in the media. And he did literally, he put his head down, and I could see a tear coming down off his cheek. And he said, no, he said, you're the right person for me. And that's how we met.
Oh, Tommy. Wow. He showed some
Yeah.
emotion. And did it catch you off guard when you seen him like this huge, muscular statue of a man and knowing what his profession was and then just seeing him like, with that one tear.
You know what? He wore glasses just like Emilio's wearing, right? So, and he would do that so that he would not have to look people in the eye. So when the tear rolled down, it rolled underneath his sunglasses, right? And no, at the time, I had never seen Rocky V. I knew nothing about Sylvester Stallone or any of the Rocky movies. Never watched one of Tommy's fights at all. And so, to me, it wasn't like, oh, I've got this heavyweight man crying, right? Not at all. I knew nothing about him other than what I was seeing that day.
So Tish, you definitely wasn't no gold digger. You didn't know nothing about him.
No gold digger. You know what? And Amelia, I've been called that in the last 8 years. I've been called a gold digger, and that was not the case at all. If people knew us back in 2009, when somebody's been kicked out of boxing for so-called having HIV, nobody wants to touch you. Nobody wants to be around you. Nobody wants to give you a job. Nobody wants to let you have a license to fight. So where's the gold in that, right? So it was it was very tough for him, and you know, during the COVID days, now I think you've all experienced 2 years of isolation, right? You've experienced not being able to go to the gym, not being able to go to the movies, not being able to shake hands or be within 6 foot of each other. That's how Tommy was treated, right, for all those years, and that's pretty tough going.
Yeah, that is a lot to go through,
Yeah,
especially when all you know is the sport of boxing. You know,
that's
to have boxing kind of like, you know, what do you do then? Like, what's your next move? You don't even know because you've like lived, breathed, and
right.
fought and had fun, like all in the same industry. So
Right.
yeah, I'm
That's right. Yeah, he definitely lived and breathed total isolation, and that was very, very tough for him. And that's what gives me the motivation, because you know, everything that I found out during these last 8 years just on this lawsuit, he didn't even know anything about. So yeah, once I've shared them with you, then I think it'll blow your mind.
Yes. And we do want to get into that in just a second. I just still like, I mean, I'm just still in awe over the strength that you had just doing
Yeah.
all this. And I mean, I just want to know like what your main goal and your motivation is in continuing to pursue this legally. Just so people would know, like I feel like I know, but I just want people to understand like what your true motivation is and what you want the outcome to be for Tommy.
Right. Yeah. The true motivation is, I think the truth needs to be told about what happened to Tommy. And you know, when you make a deathbed promise, which is what I did, he continued to fight to exonerate himself. You know, you'll see interviews right at the very beginning. You know, oh yeah, I've got HIV, and then you'll see another one that says, no, I don't, and it flip flops, right? It goes through like that his whole, you know, all the years that he was alive. But one thing that he hated was people giving up on him, right? And so I promised, and I call it a deathbed promise, where I promised to carry on his fight for him, because this is his fight.
Right.
And the stuff that happened to him, he would not wish to happen to another boxer, and it could quite easily happen. And in fact, it's happened already with COVID, where some people have actually not been able to fight because they tested positive for COVID. And then you've had some people that tested false positive for COVID. But
Mhm.
that they didn't get indefinitely medically suspended worldwide for life for testing positive for COVID.
Right.
But it happened to Tommy, for supposedly testing positive for HIV, which comes to find out it's not. It was never HIV, and it was a false positive.
And you have the proof to prove that, and you've been able to do so in a court of law. But now, Emilio, you had a couple of questions about his actual fights, like that you had wanted to ask about before she starts telling us about,
I was just curious, Trisha, do you follow the sport of boxing now at all?
Yeah, pretty much forced to. Yeah, one of the things that Tommy made me do is he had all his fights on VHS tapes, right?
Right.
And he made me look at every single fight. He wouldn't look at them, but he made me, you know, get to know who he was and how he fought. And so one of the fights that I was watching was that Ray Mercer fight, right?
Right.
And I started watching it, and I looked around to Tommy and I said, "Hey, you know, how can this guy be knocking you out like that?" And he was fast asleep, right? And so I woke him. I said, "You know, you're supposed to be watching this with me." And he looked at me and he laughed. He said, "Well, I know how it ended." Right. And then he went back to sleep again, and it was like, gosh, and it's funny because we went to Canastota, to International Boxing Hall of Fame one year, and
Right.
we sat next to somebody who knew the ref in that fight, and apparently the ref had completely frozen when Ray started to do those 16 unanswered punches to Tommy's head, and the ref just froze. He couldn't move, and that's why he didn't stop the fight. So do I follow it? Yeah, I kind of. I'd probably say yes, I do now. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Are you there? Hey, I'm here. I don't know if I'm on my own right now. Anybody there? 17. Are you there?
Okay, we're back. I'm so sorry to all our fans and to you, Trish.
Okay.
Sometimes, you know, the internet just didn't want to cooperate.
We froze.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I thought maybe it was Tommy trying to knock you out there, because sometimes it's happened before. Did you hear anything of what I was saying, or?
What was it that you said last? I'm sorry, it got me beat out, so I've lost my train of thought.
She said something about frozen. I remember she said frozen, and then like we froze.
That's right. Yeah. So that was Ref Perez, right? That froze during Ray Mercer's fight. Yeah.
That's what you was telling us, that he had woke up and said, "Well, I know the ending," and then that's when you said he just went back to sleep. But weren't you talking about that Mercer fight too, weren't you?
Well, I was thinking about Tommy on his way coming up. Trish, he was knocking everybody out, and I remember it was one time when he was like on a collision course with Mike Tyson. It was like building that up to be a big fight, but then different things happened with Mike going to prison and everything. But I remember it was one time that they looked like they were on a collision course. You know, when Tommy was coming up, when he was undefeated, knocking everybody out.
Yep. And in fact, I do have that contract as part of the court records that Don King did have him in a collision course with Mike Tyson. He was supposed to have 3 other fights before that. And the first one was February 10th, 1996 against Stormy Weathers, Arthur Stormy Weathers. And then that's the very first fight that on the Don King contract that Tommy got kicked out of in Vegas for supposedly testing positive. But there were 3 fights. It would be Stormy Weathers, and I think Larry Donald was another one. And Tommy always kept saying that the fight Peter McNeely had with Tyson, that was supposed to have been him, right? Okay. And the contract, which is part of the lawsuit, is that multi-million-dollar contract to come up against Mike. Yeah.
Okay, so basically you're saying that King had the contract with Tommy. He was supposed to do it was basically 4 fights, but 3 before Mike Tyson.
Right. Yep. Yep. Okay. It would be at least 3. And Tommy knew that he would win. And I know a lot of people always fight me on that when I go on Facebook, because Tommy told me how he would beat Mike Tyson, right? And so I'm waiting to try and get onto Mike Tyson's podcast just to let him know how Tommy would have beaten him, just to see his reaction. But Tommy did say that, Mike Tyson had just got fresh out of jail, was rusty, and that Tommy knew he would have beaten him, and it would have been a good fight for everybody to watch. They would have got their money's worth, is what he kept saying.
Okay. Dang. Oh, that would have been a good fight. CJ is right. He said that would have been a good fight with Mike and Tommy. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I'm wishing that could have happened and he could have stayed on course with that. Now, I want to start going into, the fact that Tommy did pass away, but what is it that you've learned that he probably passed away from? If there's always this misconception that it was due to complications with HIV and AIDS. So what have you learned about his real condition?
Right. Yeah. The real condition is that something that no media outlet has said is that, yes, Tommy did die. Fighters do die. Right. Tommy's not the only one or only boxer that has died over the last few years. But what the media has always portrayed is that on February 10th, 1996, Tommy was diagnosed with HIV. He was kicked out of boxing. This was at the age of just turning 27 years old. And that on September 1, 2013, he died because he was diagnosed with HIV in 96. So that meant that he died of AIDS on September 1, 2013. And that is what the media portrayed on September 2nd, 2013. And I'm sitting there saying, no, you know, this isn't true. Let's all wait for the post-mortem report, which actually came back on September 17th of 2013, showing that he had no HIV and no AIDS. Right. And that's what I've been trying to get out to the media. If anybody that's listening watched that ESPN 30 for 30, which should be in cancel mode now with all the misinformation that's on there, then they'll realize that nobody mentions the post-mortem report. And the post-mortem report was done on Tommy himself, Tommy's blood, not anybody else's, not a donking sample, right, from 96. It was actually taken from Tommy himself. And September 17th is when the pathologist, infectious disease director called me, and he said, Mrs. Morrison, I don't understand. And he started to stutter, and he said, it came back negative. And I said, yeah, I know. It probably...
Right.
Right. I said, but can you please, you know, send me the pathology report? And they did that. And they sent it to me the following week. It's written in scientific terms. You know, no retroviral budding was inside him, which means that there was no HIV. And that's what, and ESPN 30 for 30 had that. They had a copy of his postmortem, but they mentioned nothing about it. The real reason why Tommy died is not because of complications of HIV. Tommy in 2011 was sent to jail on a felony fugitive warrant of arrest. And basically he was thrown into jail for 30 days. That's that horrible mugshot that everybody has shown on ESPN. That is a jail mugshot. That's not him when he died. And when he came out of jail, he had an insect bite to the side of his chest. And a physician drained it, and he said that it was most likely either a brown recluse or a tick bite. And then the following month, he had to have surgery on that side of his chest because of it. And the surgeon left 12 foot of surgical gauze in Tommy's chest for a week to rot. All right. And you're talking about gauze that's about that wide and 12 foot in length. So, Emilio, I don't know how tall are you?
I'm 5'8".
5'8". So twice your height,
Wow.
Emilio, of gauze tightly packed into Tommy's chest.
Wow.
And so what? That, and did you know about that?
No,
I never heard
that's
about
why
that.
we asked.
Exactly. So, you know, and ESPN knew about that, and the medical records show that in the case. So for 1 week inside Tommy's body, he had 12 foot of surgical gauze left in his chest to rot. And so when the home health nurse came to the house a day after he got released from hospital, she didn't even know it was in his chest. There was no documentation for it. And then I noticed there was like a little thread sticking out of his chest. And so I said, no, there's something in there. And so she slowly pulled on that little piece of thread, and out came 12 foot of surgical gauze. And that's when Tommy that night fell, and his head went straight through a wall. He landed on his neck, and from that moment onward, that was the downfall of Tommy Morrison. It was nothing to do with HIV. And so from that moment onward, and I had him tested. I had him tested for all the AIDS-defining diseases, and they all came back negative. And he had his blood drawn, nobody else's, not his sisters, not his brothers, his mothers, his promoters, not Don King's blood, nobody.
Right.
His blood drawn, sent to Boston, Massachusetts General Hospital, and they analyzed it for a week. They took photographs of his blood, no HIV in there whatsoever. And the same happened when he died. They drew his blood and there was no HIV. The cause of death on Tommy's death certificate is cardiac arrest, because 3 weeks before he died, he had heart surgery. And then on the death certificate was cardiac arrest, septic shock, septicemia, and multi-organ failure, because he was placed in a medically induced coma a day before he died. And that is the cause of death. And nowhere does it say HIV, nowhere does it say AIDS, nowhere did the physicians bill the government for a death by AIDS like they imposed, right? At the time HIV came out, exactly the same as COVID. If somebody dies of COVID, you know, the hospital can bill for a COVID death, but you know, that's what they did with AIDS. There's no billing there. And I have the post-mortem showing no HIV AIDS, and that is on the record in the Nevada Federal Court, in the Ninth Circuit Court, in the US Supreme Court. That post-mortem is there. Okay,
Honey.
so it's in the court of law, right? So when I got his post-mortem, I then contacted the Nevada Commission. I said, hey, and the physician in Vegas, and I said, hey, you know, I wanted answers. You know, you diagnosed Tommy with HIV in '96. You kicked him out of boxing, and you told him he had HIV, and you told him that he had to get his house in order before he died. Well, you know, who diagnosed him? Because when he died, he had no HIV. And so the doctor came back through his attorney in Vegas and said, oh, well, I didn't diagnose Tommy with HIV in '96. In fact, I did his medical examination and found him physically and mentally fit to fight that night on the first fight of Don King, right? And he was fit to get a license. So it's like, really, you know, okay. So then I went.
From?
And even his email from his attorney is on the record in every court of law. And then I went to the Nevada Commission and I said exactly the same, who diagnosed him. And it wasn't until 2000, let me get my schedule here, 2016, June 2016, the defendants, which they are now, which is basically the commission and the lab, said, we never diagnosed Tommy with HIV in '96.
Wow.
That is coming directly from the Nevada Commission. So, you know, I'm thinking, what do you mean? So there's actually a court document. I'm going to read you their words. I'm the plaintiff, okay? So I'm the one that filed the lawsuit. It says here, plaintiff now recognizes that neither the state defendants, and the state defendants are Mark Ratner, who was the commissioner, Dr. Margaret Goodman, who is now in charge of VADA, and the Nevada Athletic Commission. Those are the state defendants. So plaintiff now recognizes that neither the state defendants nor the Quest defendants, which is the lab, ever diagnosed Mr. Morrison as carrying the HIV virus. Okay, it is a big wow. You know, so why is the media not picking up on this? And this is docket number 174, and you can find it for yourself in the Nevada federal court, filed by the defendants themselves, not me. Okay. And then
it's
in
gone all the way to Supreme Court at a certain point, correct?
You bet. There's just been 2 cases of boxers that have gone to the Supreme Court. One was Muhammad Ali, and it was under Cassius Clay at the time, and Tommy Morrison, right? And Ali was one of Tommy's idols, right? So when I got to the Supreme Court, it's like, yes, right? But then it didn't last long in the U.S. Supreme Court. And then in 2006, there's another document in the court of law that says that they lifted Tommy's suspension of February 10th, 1996. Okay?
We didn't know about that.
Nobody knew about that. And that came out in June of 2015. All those years, right?
Yeah.
So, the story has got to be told. The truth has got to be told. Then the next thing after that, so now we've established in 2016, the defendants say there's no diagnosis of HIV. Okay, all right, fine. In 2016, the defendants state that there was no contract with Don King. Well, that's not true, because we've also supplied the Don King contract in the court. And then in September 2016, the judge rules the tests Tommy was given did not detect or diagnose the HIV virus. Okay, that's the judge. And his exact words, I'm going to read them to you.
Yes, please.
So it's not misinformation. The judge in Vegas says, and he's a federal judge, we wouldn't even be having this discussion if the test was specific for the existence of the virus or not. That's obviously why there's even the possibility of a claim the tests didn't test for the virus. And that comes from Judge Richard Boulware II in Las Vegas. The test did not detect the virus. Okay.
That's like, I mean, it's so mind-blowing and just such, injustice for his career and who he is as a person to be murked with, that stigma. And, and nothing's wrong. Like, if you are someone that has HIV or AIDS, that is okay. That is fine. Like, they shouldn't be in hiding either. But to be accused of that when you're in a sport where nobody's going to want to fight you if they think you have HIV. So even if he was cleared, after they had already muddied up the rumor mill and said he had it, it's kind of like, who was going to be willing to stand up and fight him thinking that he has HIV? You know?
And the fact is that, when they lifted the suspension in 2006, Tommy didn't know. The media didn't tell anybody, right? His opponents didn't know. And the only time that it came to light that they lifted the suspension was in this lawsuit in 2015. Okay. Now, also, coming back to the testing in Vegas, there's a constitutional issue now with this case, because there actually was no statute in place, no law in place in Nevada for that commission to have drawn blood and tested it for anything. Now, there's a process in Vegas and in every state where you have to go through the legislature before it becomes part of the rules of a professional boxing application. And Mark Ratner knew in 1996 that the legislature had never passed testing for HIV or hepatitis C or B or anything that involved blood. He knew in 1996 that there was no statute, okay? If you remember, and this is something I've had to research, not every state in the USA tested for HIV. you could fight in every state and not have blood drawn, right?
Right.
But Nevada supposedly was the first state that it became law to have your blood tested. Well, no, it's not. It was not law. Here is actual documents from the legislator. You see the little red ribbon and everything there? That comes from the legislator. And that is confirmation that in 1996, it was not law to draw blood from any boxer, right, to test for HIV. Now, this also applies to Lamar Parks as well. So this is a pretty big case that they're wanting to just not expose. And these are the minutes of the meeting. And the minutes of the meeting also include Mark Ratner in 1997, bringing it into the legislature for them to adopt as law to draw blood from a boxer and test it for hepatitis C, B, and HIV. So what they did in 1996 was illegal. They should never have drawn blood, and that's as per the legislator. And the fact is that from 1996 until Tommy died, he did not know that these documents existed at the legislature showing that the law to actually draw blood on a boxer did not come into law until December 29th, 1997.
Okay, so a year later is when it became officially a statute.
Exactly, over a year later, yeah.
Okay.
So, so you've got a constitutional issue there of the seizure of blood, right?
Were they in '96? Was Tommy? Was he the only one that had this blood draw, or were they doing this to all the boxers that fought in that particular year?
Right. Supposedly yes and no. Right. So I don't know whether every single boxer got tested, and in actual fact, that is, against privacy rules to actually state, there's something wrong with somebody's blood in those days anyway. But then I found out, coming back to the 1996 testing, is apart from the fact that the test did not detect the virus, I found out in 2021, right, and we're in 2022 now, okay, I found out that the test that Quest Diagnostics used on Tommy was not FDA approved.
What?
It was, it was not FDA approved. It was a home brew test, which is what they call where they make them in the lab. And when they make them in the lab, it's not FDA approved because there's no proof of efficacy, is what it's called, of it actually being able to do what they say it does, right?
Yes.
So, so this just came out recently, and on the actual lab report that they provided in this case, it shows a fake physician, and it also shows no signature on the lab report confirming that he had HIV. And it shows that they actually did the testing on frozen blood. And you don't test on frozen blood.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's just so many components to this that, this information that you're finding out, is this all coming to light because of the discovery in the actual, the files that they have to submit to the court? Like,
yes.
Is that the only way you actually got access to these, different facts?
Yes, exactly. And that's a really good point that you made. In order to find out all this information I found out, I had to file a lawsuit, right? Because they had to release the information that they had in their files. And even throughout the lawsuit, they swore over 300 times under oath that statute existed in 1996. They swore under oath. So not only did they withhold that from Tommy, they withheld it from 4 judges in Vegas, 18 judges in the Ninth Circuit Court, and 9 justices in the US Supreme Court. You know, they lied under oath. And not only that, the disc of medical records, and this will be a tip for anybody that goes into a lawsuit on their own, is what Quest Diagnostics did is they subpoenaed Tommy's medical records from all the various hospitals, and then they printed off, after receiving a disc from the actual hospital, they printed off what they wanted the judge to see, and they burnt it onto a disc, and they filed the disc in court.
Now, was the original disc.
Exactly. Now, the only problem is that what they did is they scanned an affidavit of records, which comes from the hospital saying, okay, we're sending you Tommy Morrison's medical records. It's got 5,800 pages on that disc, and that's everything. So where they slipped up, the defendants, is when they burnt their own disc. They attached that affidavit of records from the facility stating 5,800 documents existed, right? But only, but on the disc, there were only 5,000 documents. So they withheld 800. And the fact is that those pages that they withheld were the post-mortem report, right, that showed no HIV. They withheld all the tests that Tommy had done on him in 2012 and 2013 for AIDS. So if you did have HIV, you would end up with one of the AIDS diseases. They withheld all those tests that I had done on him that showed that it was a negative result. And they withheld other test results showing that he had an autoimmune disorder that would trigger a false positive on the tests that are commercially available out there.
And so we'll get into detail about that, because I know a little bit about that, you know, based on my own personal experience dealing with an autoimmune condition, and the fact that anytime blood tests are ran on me, you have to be aware of the fact that they can have false positives all the time. And so things have to be double checked. Now, before I get into that, though, I wanted to ask you specifically about the fact that you don't have an attorney, but yet when you say you're speaking of the fact that they had a team of attorneys against you in court?
Yeah. I don't have an attorney, and the reason why is because when I went to Las Vegas, I tried to find an attorney, and I was flat out told that you will never find an attorney to go up against the Nevada Athletic Commission or the Nevada Attorney General's office, right?
So much money involved, huh?
Yeah, and also because they brush shoulders with each other in Nevada, and they don't want to ruffle feathers with the Nevada Attorney General or with the Nevada State Athletic Commission. So that's why I don't have an attorney. And quite honestly, if I did, I would want an attorney that is honest. And I just don't know if there are any out there. If there are, please call me, right? Because the defendant
behind closed doors, they're not so willing to want to, you know, they know that it can hurt their careers if they take a case that is against an entity that is, you know, that well connected and so much money and power exists,
right,
in Nevada. So
yeah, well,
in their side of it, but at the same time, my point is that you've been courageous enough and intelligent enough to catch things like missing pages from the medical report and the exact medical information and pages that are missing. You know, so I just wanted to pinpoint the fact that you haven't had any legal help from traditional means.
Right. That's right. You know, I mean, it would make a very good movie, right? This whole just the lawsuit itself. But yeah, they have attorneys, Dr. Margaret Goodman, you know, Mark Ratner, the Nevada Athletic Commission. They have the Nevada Attorney General's office is their attorney. And of course, there's quite a few attorneys within there and paralegals. And then you've got Quest Diagnostics, which is one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. And they have their own team of attorneys and you know, paralegals. So it's been quite powerful, but to go up against these people. But every time I file something, I find out something new and something that they should have disclosed at the very beginning of the lawsuit. And in fact, something that they should have disclosed to Tommy himself and Tommy's family and friends at the time, that, you know, you can test false positive on a test if you have an autoimmune disorder. Oh, okay. Well, then let's test him for an autoimmune disorder. Well, in these court records, the Nevada Athletic Commission actually state we didn't know that these tests could trigger a false positive because we're not in the medical business, so we don't know about that, right? But if
decisions can be made based off results that they receive, that can
right,
be life changing. That's the issue, and I'm pretty sure now that they know about this type of thing, that they now have fail safes in place for the commission.
right,
But at the same time, during that time, if you're saying that you don't have the background or the medical to deal with a complicated medical blood test and the results that you see, then why didn't you bring anyone in that could?
right, exactly. Well, you know, you've got to look a little bit deeper. You know, why didn't Quest Diagnostics tell the commission or tell their patients or tell their physicians that their test was not FDA approved,
Right.
right? You know, why did Quest
Paid
Diagnostics,
them for that service. The Boxing
right,
Commission paid Quest for that service to do the blood work. Um,
right,
you know, so yeah,
yeah,
that's
and
a contract right there.
right, and you know, and then when you see Tommy make that announcement in February, you know, don't look at me as a role model. You know, you know, basically retiring from the sport. Um, you know, there was no physician standing next to him on that podium. You know, like Magic Johnson, you've got his physician right there answering the question about the test that he took and what they're going to do and the medication and all that. There was nobody standing with Tommy at the podium. And you know, there he is saying, I've been told I've tested positive for the virus. Well, in February 1996, there was no test for the virus. It didn't come out until June of 1996. So what test are you talking about, right? And this is stuff that I've had to find out. But right now, in front of the court, basically, you've got a negative test results for HIV, you've got negative test results for AIDS, you've got a post-mortem report by experts, not me, I didn't write it, right? That came from actual experts showing no HIV or AIDS. You've got evidence that the test did not detect the HIV virus. You've got evidence that they lied about the statutes and regulations in 1996 and throughout the case. You've got evidence that there was a valid Don King multi-million-dollar contract, which they stated never existed. You've got evidence actually that Arthur Stormy Weathers, the opponent, actually sent Don King a note on February 2nd of 1996, 8 days before the fight, saying he's not going to be able to fight. And again, you know, why didn't this come out? Right. So Stormy Weathers was never going to be fighting Tommy anyway. He had a physician's letter to say that he had sinusitis and was not going to be fighting Tommy. Well, you know, did Don King say anything about that? Did Don King find a replacement? No. Then you've got evidence that they withheld medical records by burning a disc and cherry picking records that they wanted. You've got evidence that Dr. Margaret Goodman, she lied about the qualifications of a John Hyatt to the media, saying that Tommy's unequivocally got HIV and that he had read the results and he was a renowned physician and pathologist. Well, court documents confirm that this John Hyatt was a PhD and not a medical doctor or a pathologist, right? Then you've got evidence that Mark Ratner knew the statutes quoted did not exist in 1996 because he was actually in a meeting in 1997 proposing that statute that they kicked Tommy out on. And then you've got evidence that they secretly lifted the ban without anyone knowing. You've got biological evidence now in front of the court, and this is where I'm at right now. There's biological evidence that they found at one of the hospital facilities that we want to have tested for DNA HIV, and the defendants don't want to test that piece of tissue. So that's
why. That would, like, if he really had HIV, that would like prove them incorrect in what they did.
Right, exactly. So that's where we're at right now. And you know, there's enough evidence there to show that he had autoimmune disorders, which would trigger a false positive if Quest were honest enough to have told everybody that their tests do trigger false positives. And yet I still get attacked by people who may be even commenting now, oh, she's crazy. I'm not the crazy one. I'm actually delivering the information directly from the defendants showing what happened to Tommy that nobody has wanted to expose. So I always say, you know, if everything I have got is wrong, then please, tonight, you know, please post your post-mortem report showing Tommy died of HIV/AIDS. Show me an ante-mortem pathology report, which would mean a report before he died, showing me that his blood was infested with HIV. Name the test, all right, that supposedly detects the virus, and name the physician that diagnosed Tommy with HIV, right? And name the diseases, the AIDS diseases that you say he had. And I'd be happy to file them in court because none of that exists on the record. And yet, you know, people troll me, and I've had death threats. The last one was actually because of me wanting to have this piece of tissue tested for DNA, HIV. And the last ping of that death threat came 4 minutes away from the defendant's headquarters. So,
I mean, this is like so disgusting on so many levels, and to just know that so many people might have been privy to knowing that they were basically seeing someone literally have their career ripped from them, literally having a medical situation, but being misdiagnosed and having so many people just jump on board and be willing to go with a diagnosis for a blood test that was not even FDA approved.
Right.
I mean, and then I too, it's another element to it that I think people don't understand. But I specifically understand that emotional element that Tommy was probably feeling, because my test come back and it said in the beginning it was ANA, which is okay, you have an immune condition. Now it's 3-4 years before they actually are able to pinpoint with testing exactly and a very good specialist to really diagnose my condition. But every time I tell people I have an autoimmune condition, they automatically jump to, oh, she probably got HIV, or, you know, it's like something that people just have in their mind and they don't realize like that there are thousands of autoimmune conditions and rare conditions out here.
Right.
So
That's
until
right.
I actually had a real diagnosis, in my mind, part of the time I'm thinking, dang, well, do I have it? Because so
Yeah.
many people are trying to tell me I have it. So I understand that back and forth mental warfare that you go through in your mind
Yeah.
when that thought is put in your head all the time.
Right. That's right. And you know what is so frustrating is that everything that I have uncovered in this lawsuit, Tommy didn't know about. He didn't know that you could test false positive. He didn't know he had Addison's disorder, which you do need to get treated for.
Right.
You know, lupus, you know, Coombs positive. These are all um, autoimmune disorders, blood disorders, but they're not contagious in the ring. You
Right.
know, so if you know, if you look at him in 1996, he was just he February of 1996, he just turned 27, right? And then it wasn't until after that that he then started to really go hardcore on the drugs, you know, get involved with people that he shouldn't have got involved with,
Right.
and lead what they said was a promiscuous lifestyle, right?
Mhm.
But basically, it was depression. You know, he was told he was going to die in
Right.
February,
You're
and he
living
didn't.
your best life. You're like, well, I'm finna party and I'm finna have a good time because they're telling me I'm going to pass away early anyway. So let me go down my bucket list and check these buckets, you know?
That's exactly what his mentality was. The only thing that he couldn't get was a license to get back in the ring, because you know, boxing was his life. That's what brought income in for him and his family. Um, you know, you've got all these belts here. I don't know if you can see them. Can you? But he even said that the time it took him away from his family to get these belts really wasn't worth it. He would have much rather have spent time with his family than go out and fight for money, right?
Right.
To keep his family going. But yeah.
I understand that.
It's just I was curious. Wonder, have Sylvester Stallone ever reached out to you lately? Reached out to
Um,
you?
You know, I get asked that a lot. I posted something on Instagram the other day and he liked it. So, you know, it's he might be doing a Rocky Five director's cut. And in fact, as I mentioned in another interview a week or so ago, I emailed MGM. I'm in contact with MGM Studios, and I said, absolutely, you know, let's do a Rocky Five director's cut. I would love, you know, Sly to get it done. But as far as actually reaching out to me, no, not a direct reach. You know, through people, yeah, but not directly.
Okay.
Well, I
Yeah.
just wanted to talk 1 second about family because you did say you missed a lot of time. Well, that he missed a lot of time with his kids. And I know that's one of the areas in which you're a huge advocate for is for fathers that are trying to, you know, have visitation rights or custody rights and be able to just spend quality time with their kids. So, I mean, can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about what made you want to, you know, emphasize and support men that are trying to actively seek visitation and things like that with their kids?
Yeah. You know, that was a very big part of our relationship is when I had met him in May of 2009. You know, I asked him about his, you know, his family. I mean, he spoke we would speak nonstop for hours and hours every day that we were together. He told me about his whole life. You know, I mean, every single girlfriend, right? Every fight, everything. There was nothing I didn't know about Tommy. There was nothing he did not tell me about, you know, his relationships and so on. And one thing that was always dear to his heart was, you know, his kids. you know, these belts and everything that he had won were for his kids, which so I keep them, you know, very, very safe for them. But how I dealt with it was I actually bought him a laptop and his younger son a laptop. And it's funny because with COVID, you know, everybody's FaceTiming each other now, right? We're doing interviews on podcasts. Well, at that time back in 2009, it wasn't really heard of, but there was something called Skype, right, which people still use. And I hooked him up to Skype, and then we sent the other laptop down to his kid in Tennessee, and they were able to communicate that way, right? So I got him started on that. Then, you know, it was important for him to go down and see his child, because he had missed, you know, his children growing up while he was out there fighting, which I'm sure a lot of fighters do, because they're out there earning money to support their families, which means is that they're not home every day. They have to go to training camps. They have to not have women around, you know, women weaken knees and stuff like that, right? So they can't have they can't have family around either, right?
We know.
Yeah, I didn't know what that meant until Tommy explained that to me. Um, uh, so, you know, it was something that he wanted to be a father as well. And he I think he did a great job. One of the things that he had to do was he had to do drug rehab. In our relationship, it was a must, right? And when I found out that actually in his divorce papers with his second wife, I found out that he was not allowed to see his child unless he tested negative for drugs. So this was a huge thing between us. And Tommy actually did do drug rehab, and he was successful doing it. And unfortunately, you know, he still had a restraining order put against him. You know, I don't know for whatever reason, but
This
he
the
was
son
never
that
allowed.
now, or this the son that kind of fights now, or different?
No, this is a different one. Yeah. And so he never got to see that son again in his lifetime, right?
When he was sick?
Yeah. So, you know, so one thing I want to say is that, you know, no matter what's going on, you know, it's too late to let your child go to the grave and miss their dad or their mom fighter. You know, it goes for women fighters as well. You know, there has to be a happy medium. There has to be something. And, you know, as a so-called stepmother or a new wife to the kid's father, you know, we don't stand in the way of them seeing their children. It's often a case where we're wanting them to see their child, but it doesn't work out that way because of whatever their relationship is with their exes, right? It's not so much, it was not my influence to stop him seeing his child. A restraining order was put on him. His child never got to see him, despite Tommy having done drug rehab. So,
I mean, I mean, as a female, so it is hard to see, you know, your former lover or husband or something, and they moved on, and they got, you know, a beautiful woman with them, and it seems like they moved on. I think there are a lot of women that can't take that, and they use children as a weapon against their the fathers.
yeah. Yeah, it seems to be. And, you know, and Tommy fell into that as well. Everybody thinks that celebrities don't fall into stuff that happens in normal days, you know, for normal people. But it happened to Tommy, and it really upset him. And when the restraining order was delivered to him, it was actually the day that he got out of hospital, still with that 12 foot of surgical gauze in his chest that we didn't know anything about. and they delivered the restraining order to him on the porch just as we got home after 8 days in the hospital. And the police that served him the restraining orders obviously knew he was Tommy, and they apologized to him. They said, "We're really sorry, you know, we have to serve you these restraining orders." And Tommy put his head down and he cried. He literally cried.
We got a few comments here, Tish. One coming from Commodus. He says, has Tommy Vergetts or Tony Holden offered to help?
Right. Vergetts, he is in Switzerland, I think, with the Olympics. Did he want to help Tommy? Quite honestly, Tommy tried to get a hold of him in 2010, and he returned his call once, but no offer of help, obviously, at that time, 2010. But no, Vergetts has not reached out to me. And Tony Holden, you know, we text each other. It goes backwards and forwards. We have kept in contact, but we're not best buds or anything like that. But we respect each other. He's busy. I'm busy. Tony Holden was part of the lawsuit. He was deposed by the defendants, even though he has absolutely no medical background. For some reason, the defendants chose to depose Tony Holden as opposed to the pathologist that did Tommy's post-mortem, which I find pretty hilarious. But Tony Holden has admitted he's not a physician, and quite honestly, he should not have been put in the position in 1996 to tell Tommy that he had HIV. That's not Tony Holden's position. Mark Ratner should not have gone to Tony Holden to deliver a deathly virus diagnosis to somebody who actually wasn't a licensed promoter of Tommy. It should have come directly from a physician. And as you can see now from this lawsuit, I went directly to the physician and said, "Hey, why did you diagnose Tommy with HIV in '96?" And I get a response, "I never diagnosed him with HIV." So anybody that has any medical background knows a diagnosis needs to come to a patient through a physician. And so Tony Holden unfortunately got involved in that. Coming back to your question, has he been in contact with me? Yes.
Okay, we got another question from referee Christopher Young. He says, "I'm sorry that you are going through this. I remember about 6 or 7 years ago that they were in the process of making a movie about Tommy Morrison's life. Whatever happened to that?"
Right. Yeah, I saw that. Well, first of all, I'm just trying to remember what the name of it was. But anyway, they chose somebody really ugly, right? So
you were like, no way.
Yeah.
Right.
So it would have bombed anyway, right? They didn't have the funding, and they had basically all these ugly people because they had a Facebook page. And the story isn't finished yet. So how can you do a movie on Tommy Morrison when I'm finding out all these facts, right? So what happened to that? To answer that question is, I guess they ran out of funding. But not only that, I think because I told them that their star model was ugly, that I would never have married him anyway. So their movie's gonna bomb, right?
Tish, who would you want to play Tommy, Tish?
Well, you know what? I do have, trust me, I've got some people that are ready and waiting to do the movie as soon as I just feel maybe there's another piece of information that needs to come out. So I am leaving the star of the movie up to them because they know how to make movies.
Who would you want to play yourself, Trish?
I think who is it? Reese Witherspoon. You know, doesn't she go into court and yeah, and win cases? So I would love for her to play me. Yeah.
Yeah, you need a little more sexy though. Those two, they cutesy, but you got a little sex appeal about you. So I think you gotta have some another actress that's just a little more of a bombshell.
No, not me.
Yeah, plus they gotta do your accent
too.
right. Well, that's why she's Winslet.
Yeah.
Where are you from in the UK?
I'm from Wimbledon, where they play tennis. I'm actually I used to play tennis. I used to coach it as well. So that's where I'm from. Yeah.
Okay. My best friend, she's from Kent.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I've lived in Kent as well. I played tennis tournaments in Kent.
Oh, wow. So you're an athlete yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You left that out now. CJ, he says.
CJ Hooker says, I know the feeling the court system is corrupt. You have to do it for yourself. And he says, keep up the good fight.
Oh, very
yeah. Yeah, you know what? It is I really did not know what I was getting into. I thought basically somebody's going to say, oh, I diagnosed Tommy with HIV. Nobody said that now. Nobody is willing to take the blame for a diagnosis of HIV. They're all pointing fingers at each other. The lab is pointing fingers at the commission. The commission's pointing fingers at the lab. The lab is pointing fingers at the test kit companies. The test kit companies are going back to the lab saying, hey, no, we just make the tests, we don't diagnose. And the physicians are saying, hey, we didn't draw the blood. We did not test the blood. We did not write the report. We did not diagnose the patient. It's you. So, who's to blame for a diagnosis of HIV now? ESPN.
Oh, go ahead, Trish. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the only people that I can think of now to blame for a diagnosis of HIV is ESPN 30 for 30, right? Where they actually give misinformation, and that's why I'd like to cancel them by saying that
they misrepresented how intelligent of a woman you are. I know that for a fact. So that's slander.
It is slander. You're right. Yeah, it is slander.
Pass on ESPN, Trish.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's cancel them. Can we please boycott ESPN? Right.
Well, there's other fish in the sea. We can go to Showtime with this podcast. We don't have to go through ESPN because they was wrong. That was wrong to misrepresent that entirely. Just
it is
a good, what's called good entertainment.
Yeah, well, you got to realize that ESPN came out with their so-called documentary in 2017, right? This lawsuit began in 2014. Already on court records, it shows that they lifted the suspension, right? That nobody diagnosed him with HIV. So why didn't they mention that in 2017? They could have saved me a lot of trouble by telling the world, which is what they've basically gone around the world with a narrative of still HIV/AIDS, when really the ending was, no, he didn't die of HIV, and his ban was actually lifted.
Trish, we got another comment from Linda Platt, that amazing photographer. She says they should have had an immediate second blood test after the first blood test was a false positive.
Right. You know what? That's a good question, Linda. The only problem is that we've now discovered just last year, 2021, that the test was not FDA approved anyway. So no matter if they did it twice, it doesn't make any difference, right? Because the test actually has been found not to be FDA approved. So that means that there is no supporting clinical or scientific documents that shows that that test would ever detect HIV/AIDS or even HIV antibodies.
Right. Yeah. So even if they ran the test twice, they would have still came up with probably the same result.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know what? And what are they going to run the second test on? They would have had to have taken more blood from Tommy, or the frozen blood that they used. Who did that belong to? Right. And why was it frozen? You know, if you are doing a blood test on a Thursday for a fight on a Saturday, you don't freeze the blood, right? You take it from the arm and you take it to the lab and you test it and you get results, right? So to put it in a toxicology freezer, which again, this has just come out last year, it just doesn't seem right, you know.
Yeah, they had already tainted the product they were supposed to test right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Linda has a question about Tommy's son.
Is Tommy's son old enough to play his dad in the movie?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
I'm going to leave that up to the producer and the directors. You know, I think they have a good idea of what they want, right?
But is he old enough? She said, would he be old enough to even be considered, basically?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I can't answer that.
All right. And she just asked the same question. That's the same question.
All right.
Danny Sanchez says, love the show. Keep up the good work. So there are some people that want to hear. Oh, she says he looks so much like Tommy. That's what she's saying that. Linda said.
Right. Right.
I mean, it seems like we got a lot of people on here that like are very sympathetic and very much shocked at the way that, you know, all of this information has been hidden from the public, and most people have this perception of, you know, Tommy just matter of factly, you know, having HIV, and that's why his career was over. When actuality, you know, I still feel like we don't have fully all the story as to. I always like to ask why. So, like, why would somebody go through and do all these different things? So, I still feel like you have some more discovery to find out in this case, because the underlying reason why all of this was done, especially when there was so much money that was potentially going to be made from a matchup with Mike Tyson in 4 fights from when they, you know, basically got rid of him in the sport. It's like something key is missing as far as what, you know, a fact. Like, there are plenty of things that I could say and they would just be guesses. I'm sure you have some thoughts yourself, but you know, just to have a factual basis to it would be lovely. Like if some more treasures fell out of that lawsuit, you know.
You know, it's I'm sure it's going to. There's just one or two kind of why did this happen, and that's why I'd love to be on Mike Tyson's podcast, right? He did do an interview, or actually he mentioned it on his own podcast maybe a few months ago, that he was sitting ringside for this fight that Tommy was supposed to have fought in, which I presume is that February 10th, 1996 fight, and that a physician came over to Mike and said, it's not going to happen. And he probably will never fight again. And so I messaged someone that Mike knew, and I said, who was the physician? Who was the physician friend of Mike Tyson that would say that to him that night that Tommy was supposed to have fought and then got kicked out for life, because I need his name. And I guess Mike couldn't remember the friend physician that had said that to him.
Right. I mean, because it could be two possibilities where he knew exactly what or whom told him that information as a physician, or it could also have been that they had already started pushing this narrative out to the boxing community for them to, spread the lie and make it more legitimate.
Right. Right, that's right. Yeah. Well, so far where we're in the Ninth Circuit Court, and basically they're telling me that I didn't file in time. Obviously, I wasn't there in 1996, but all the information that's come out has been since 1996 and since Tommy died. And so what we're waiting on right now is a new panel of judges at the Ninth Circuit Court to let us know if the case can move forward with DNA HIV testing on that piece of preserved tissue that has been found at the hospital. Despite we already have all the evidence that shows he did not have HIV in his blood, in his spine, in his saliva, in his sperm, in his macrophages, in everything in his body, there is no photo, image, or any evidence of a virus. Even despite all that evidence, I'm still moving forward with that newly discovered evidence,
Right.
and defendants don't want to do the testing on there.
So you're saying they're trying to use a technicality of when the lawsuit should have been filed as far as the statute of limitations?
That's right. Exactly right. Yes.
So
Yeah.
if you can't use facts to win your case, now we're just
Right.
going to try to go back and use technicalities.
Right, that's right. So you know what? It just makes me laugh because it's almost like the vaccine companies now saying that they're not going to release any information on their vaccines for another 75 years, right? And and I'm thinking, okay, well, if that's okay for them, then surely information that's being released now on Tommy 26 years later, that should be still good, right? But yeah, they're trying to take me out on a statute of limitations technicality. I should have filed this back in 1996.
Oh, okay, but that's before you even knew that he was wrong. How are you going to sue somebody for something that you didn't even know the person had literally been treated unfairly and given incorrect testing as well as ended his career before it actually happened?
Right, that's right.
So there's no
Yeah,
way that you would have known. You have to only file something once you know that there was something unjust done.
right. Yeah.
And
And the thing,
the effects of exactly what happened that led up to, his passing.
right. And this lawsuit is filed under the estate of Tommy Morrison.
Yes.
So, whatever happens to a person, their causes are rolled over onto the estate, right? So, I'm still going to fight it. I'm going to see how far I can get. I really believe that the defendants know that they were wrong. And they've tried to withhold the wrong throughout this whole lawsuit, but it's all coming out. As Tommy would say, everything hidden in darkness will come to the light.
Right. That's right. That's an old saying here in America. Whatever's done in the dark, it's gonna come to light.
Yeah, that's right.
But I am sensing that you probably are going to be able to find an attorney soon based off all of that information. And it would have to be an attorney that would have the privileges to be in Nevada as well as a different state. Like they would have to have primary resident in a different state, but still legally be able to practice law in Nevada.
Right, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, it can be any attorney. In fact, it's better to be an attorney that does not live in Nevada,
Right.
and that has privileges to do the Ninth Circuit Court, the US Supreme Court, and be pro hac vici, which means an out-of-state attorney for Nevada. I would welcome that. All the evidence is in the court now. So it would take somebody not long to get on board.
I know, it's like it's a case just waiting there. You've done all the legwork basically
Right.
to win the case. Like they don't even have to go searching hard at this point.
Right. Right.
It says evidence was suppressed, therefore the statute of limitation based on the information is new and is not admissible.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I have attacked and argued it every time. You know, that it is newly admissible evidence every time I've uncovered something. But for some reason, I don't know. I don't even want to say anything. But in Nevada, I'm on my fourth judge. The first three recused themselves, which meant that they took themselves off the case.
Right.
So
Some kind
yeah,
of connection usually. That
I just hope that they're not buying the judges too many dinners. Let's just put it that way, right?
yeah, it's possible. It's definitely
Yeah,
possible.
yeah, you know.
And good tickets to the fights.
Well, exactly. Yes, that's right. Because we all know that the Nevada Commission gives out free tickets to ESPN and all the boxing writers, and there are no boxing writers that have written up on this case. You know, other than one or two, everybody seems to be shunning and wanting not to pay attention to this case.
Well, every time I write an article, it's overlooked whenever I start creating articles. So,
Yeah.
you know, it just stays on Boxing Playhouse and then on our Facebook fans, posts. So, I mean, they basically the writing era nowadays seems to be tell me what I want to hear and then I'll give you information. So it's like you broke the news of this fight or that fight.
Yeah.
And if you step outside of those lines, then you're going to get ignored, and you're not really going to get, your just, dues for hard work and being and really doing investigative reporting.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Tish, I'm looking at them belts. Is that WBO belt there too?
Yes, it is. Do you want me to zoom in?
Yeah, let me see that.
Okay. Can you see
there
that?
it goes, right there.
Oh, it's so nice.
There go right there, the WBO one.
Is the red one?
Yeah, the red one.
Yeah.
Wow, how many belts he got?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the Rocky belt up there.
I was gonna ask you if he had that Rocky belt.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna have to let you go. It's been so real. I'm like so excited for you, and you just keep plugging away at this, and I'm really praying that you'll find that right attorney to assist you. But also, even if you don't, you just have to know in your heart of hearts that you have done everything humanly possible, and that Tommy Morrison is so proud of his wife today.
Yeah.
That's something you really need to hear and understand.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? If everybody can share this podcast, it would really help, because it's the fans that will make this come out as a story. So, that I would really appreciate that help.
And this story definitely got to be told, Trish. And when you get the movie together, make sure you put our little clip in there when you talk to us.
You bet. Yeah. Yeah. You guys can be in the movie, okay?
I need Denzel Washington to play me.
All right. That's right. Yeah. But you know what? One thing I want to end on is that Tommy really loved his fans. They were very special to him, right? And I think that he actually said he never gave up because of his fans.
Aw.
And yeah.
Yeah, that means a lot for sure.
CJ
CJ.
wanted to say something. Linda said, God bless you, Trish. CJ Hooker, he said, thank you, Trish. If you don't mind, I'll add you on Facebook and I'm going to research the case.
Well, that's great. Yeah, please do. Yeah. In fact, my only platform really is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So I tweet quite a storm when I can. And Facebook is definitely where I actually post. All these documents are all publicly available, and be happy to email them to you, or you can just go ahead and go into court records and get them. You know, everything is transparent that I do. You know exactly what I've done, what I've found out, and I'm not the one making up these documents. They're actually documents from the defendants themselves. So yeah.
Linda said that maybe Thomas Hauser could write something. He's honest and trustworthy.
You know what? Somebody approached Thomas Hauser, and no, he didn't write anything about this. So I'd like to call out a few people that really should be focusing on this story if they really think that they're historians, right? And Thomas Hauser would be one of them, right? Because to want to write about Tommy in his glory days, that's great. But this is a bigger story. This is the biggest fight that Tommy ever fought. And Thomas Hauser, if you're listening, why are you ignoring this story? You know, it's time for you to start writing about the truth about Tommy Morrison, and not what ESPN want you to believe. So yeah, Thomas Hauser, come on.
All right. And
Right,
we'll
Thomas.
see. Have a blessed night. Thank you so much for everything. The beautiful Dahlia Duran. She sends you hearts.
Oh, great. Yeah, I look forward to meeting you. I might come out to Florida for your Florida Boxing Hall of Fame.
Yeah, you
Yes.
got to come.
Oh my God, that would be so great. We would have such a fun
Trish.
time. Yes.
Yeah, I would love to. Actually, there's one writer down there that I'd like to punch out, knock out. So I think he was inducted last year or the year before, but he wrote some pretty nasty things about Tommy and not being a boxer, not being a heavyweight, and yeah, just some weird stuff. So yeah, I'd like to come down and pay a visit.
It's coming up in June, Trish.
I know. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Well, hopefully you can make it, because you know we always have an amazing time. You know, all of the Hall of Famers are there that's being inducted, plus past years, and future ones are hanging around too.
You still in the States, Trish?
Yeah. Yeah, in the Midwest with about 8 to 10 inches of snow right now. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And you still going to work in this?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Wow, you must got, what kind of, you got an SUV or one of them big F-150s?
No, I just have Tommy's car, which was a Mazda 6 2000, and I don't even know what year it is, but I just get in it and drive it.
Wow, that's good. Also, Krinkle is the one that received the Boxing Writing Association's Writer of the Year award.
Really?
But then again, he's got a contract with ESPN, so
there you go. You see, that's the whole problem, right? Yeah, you hit it on the head. That is why. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. What do they say? What a something we wear. Something
Right.
Okay. We got a last minute comment. I think he actually said earlier that he didn't hear the entire podcast. But commanders, you can also go back and replay this on YouTube from the beginning to watch the entire show. But he says something like, "Do you have anything to do with the Tommy book coming out this spring?"
No, I don't. Tommy actually brought out his own books. Um, and one that I've already told you about in the podcast, that's The Boxing Career, Tommy, My Boxing Career. The other one was Tommy, My Darkest Years. And these are the ones that Tommy wrote that you can only get from his website, tommythedukemorrison.com. There are two others that I still have to get published. One is on a CD disc that I need to convert and publish, and that is Tommy, My Untold Story. That was written by Tommy as well. And then the one I'm finishing for Tommy is Tommy, My Unfinished Business, which is basically everything that I'm finding out for him. But the one that person is asking about actually is a book that is basically just confirming all ESPN information again. And they're bringing it out in April, and that Tommy died of his delusions is part of how this person's writing it.
How
So
nasty.
it is because, basically you're reading exactly what ESPN have done. And again, I'd be surprised if the writer, mentions the postmortem results, which basically throws everything else prior off, right?
Right.
Even to the ban, which doesn't exist anymore, as you know, even to the diagnosis, which doesn't exist anymore. So it's just a way of people profiting off somebody's life and
Mhm.
somebody's death, right?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's slander again, but there's not much I don't think I can do about it. They can just bring it out. I think he's selling it for like $20 a book, and he's just basically doing it to make money, and that's what
That's
he's
it.
doing.
Oh, so listen. What's how you say his name?
Who?
Kumadas. Dump that book, honey. You don't need that. You want to real facts, you need to go to TonyMorrison.com, and you also need to wait on Trisha's new book, which is going to include all the real evidence and all of the facts of the case that she's been fighting for all these years. And
Yeah, and it's available in court records anyway. You don't actually have to buy a book. You can just, download them. And in fact, it's better that you do download them from court records, because those are sealed and filed in the court of law. So if those records were not correct, they wouldn't be accepted in the
allowed.
court of law. Yeah,
And
yeah.
you can download it right from your computer, and you don't have to worry about whether it's true or false, or whether it's made up, or whether pages have been, you know, taken out of it or anything, because it's going to be exactly what's in that court file case.
Right, exactly. That's right. Yeah.
Trish, Linda says she's going to contact Thomas. I guess the writer.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, good luck. Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. You know what? If these historian writers, why would they ignore such a story like this? Is it because Thomas
Really
Hauser
good, to be
is
honest. Not that you wanted it to be juicy, but
It's interesting.
right?
it's so interesting, and
Yeah.
it's also like, like your jaw is open at some of these facts that's coming out, especially with these testing. The quest diagnostic part is just really insane to me. I
It
don't know.
it It is totally insane, especially if it hasn't just happened to Tommy only. This could be happening to other people. So
it's happening to other people. But they don't have the savvy to be able to file pro se and represent themselves and really, be able to fight this in a court of law by themselves.
I wonder if they did Magic Johnson like that.
Yeah. I have some comments on that too, but
oh really? You have me thinking for a minute. I'm like, dang, because he ain't never said.
Yeah.
It does make you think.
It might have been the same people.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Oh my God. Don't get my mind going, because I'll be staying up all night thinking of different people.
Yeah.
Trish, we definitely have enjoyed having you tonight. We did a 2-hour show.
Wow, 2 hours.
Are you kidding?
I'm so lucky and blessed. How about you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We appreciate you, Chris, coming on, showing us the belts.
Man. Yeah.
Talking about Tommy and everything that he did in his career as well. Plus, how we can all support men that want to spend time with their kids. Let's not forget that.
Right. Yeah, that's important. So I have a question for you, Emilio. So when you do your podcast, you're drinking out of a goblet. What's in there?
Oh, when you come to Florida, I'll let you know.
Okay. All right.
Still trying to get at it. You don't want to say what's in there just yet.
Yeah, you know what? I'll just message Dalia Duran and see if she can tell me. Okay.
She's definitely had some before.
Oh, okay. Well, guys, thank you very much.
So I got to drink tea.
Right. I really appreciate your time. 2 hours just seems nothing. I could talk about this, day and night. I breathe it day and night. If you can arrange for Tommy to be inducted into the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame, that would be pretty neat too.
That would be neat.
Yeah.
You actually would be the first Hall of Fame for Tommy, believe it or not. That might start a little trend. But I really appreciate your help, because these podcasts do help me. And if Thomas Hauser would like to write on this, that would be even better. Right. But we'll see what happens. The next thing really is the court decision. That's what we're all waiting for. The court documents were filed December 28th of this last year, and it can take up to 3 months. And I check in with the court regularly to see if there's a decision. So if the decision is to test the DNA, the tissue for DNA HIV, that will be great. If the defendants feel that that would be too risky for them to test it, then we could go back to mediation and settle this whole 8-year lawsuit in favor of Tommy and his estate. If not, then the next step is the U.S. Supreme Court again.
All right. I mean, I'm there for it. Tommy versus U.S. I mean, Nevada and all these people that just know, like, just admit you did something wrong and move on. Close the chapter and give this man the respect he deserves back. Like, just so he has his legacy, and which he still does, by the way. Even though they trying to mess it up and portray him in a different, light.
Right.
The truth is always on your side for those real fans of Tommy's that want to know the truth and want to delve deep into it. But it's like, just these defendants just need to go ahead, negotiate this, and just solidify that something went terribly wrong back in the day.
That's right.
Is that they don't want to discuss right now. If they keep on dragging this out, and then you're going to really start finding out more and more information, because every time that they, take you through another chapter of this lawsuit, it's like more and more crumbs are falling out of their clothes.
Well, that's right. I mean, it all boils down to no HIV diagnosis, right? No ban. So why was there no fight? So that's what it all boils down to now. And you've got a multi-million-dollar contract sitting on the table that should have gone forward and didn't, right?
And
So
it would have had to have been fulfilled if it was not for a medical reason.
right. And even if it was a medical reason, why did they lift it in 2006, 10 years later?
Right.
And then say there was no ban at all. There was a ban. They messed up, right? So now they basically have to pay for it.
Right. Yeah. And Tommy's well-being and his life and his legacy and everything that he worked hard towards shouldn't be forgotten in that.
Right. That's right.
All right, Trish. Well, please keep in contact with us because we would love to have you back next time you have a positive update, because I know it's a thing.
Right. Yep. I would love to spend the evening again with you. So I'll keep in touch.
Hard.
Hall of Fame, Trish, if you can.
Yep.
All right. We're going to see. We got to have some good food, too. So you know that. You're coming to the South.
I'll see you in Florida. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Trish.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So if you guys want to find out more information about Trisha, you and Tommy's story, all you have to do is go to www.tommythedukemorrison.com for more information, or you can always just contact her on Facebook or Twitter in her messages, because she does get back to everyone. As long as they're not hostile, she will get back to you. And if you ever see anybody trying to be a troll against Trish, the way this woman has fought and tried to just gain back her husband's legacy, truly unblemished, then please step in and tell them to kick rocks on these comments and different things, because that's not right either. She lost her husband too early. And I do hope Emilio wants to take care of me and remember me when I'm gone like that. She still loves her husband very much, and that's always a pleasant surprise in this day and age. Can I get that in? Amen. All right. As for the rest of you guys, thanks so much for joining us tonight. You can find us on all Box and PlayHouse platforms, including YouTube, including Twitter, IG, Facebook, of course, Twitch, and TikTok. All right. Thanks so much. And we will see you next week, where we're going to be having Regis Prograde, baby. The Rougarou. Okay. And don't forget about our Latin America series, which comes on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Thanks, guys. Oh, I forgot to play the music. Yeah, our outro too, right?
Welcome to the house, the one they talking about. Word of mouth, the Box and PlayHouse, without a doubt. All the latest and greatest boxing news, that's what it's all about.